Do you see the screen? Do you see the image? Everything okay? Great. Ahora hay gente que se está uniendo. So, the topic that I prepared for you today is tips for teaching English to adults, which I think is a very interesting and useful topic for an English teacher. Okay? Do you have any experience working with older learners? Have you ever worked with adults? Hmm?
No, I haven't. I experienced working with kids, but I have never worked with adults.
Perdón, tenía el micrófono apagado. But perhaps later you will have the opportunity to work with older students. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, we need to get to know the student's profile. This is very important for us as teachers because, as you know, the teaching process is very complex. And depending on the group of students we are working with, we will have different ways of approaching teaching. When we are working with adults, we have to take into account several aspects or characteristics of the adult student. Okay, so now we're going to deal with the student's profile. As you know, for those who didn't have the opportunity yet to work with adults, teaching English to children is very different from teaching English to adults. Okay. Hola Ro, ¿cómo estás? Saludos a Catamarca.
¿Cómo están?
So it's very different. And we have to pay attention to these items. For example, life experience is a very important feature in the adult learner. This means that the adult student brings to the classroom, okay, his life background. And we as teachers should pay attention to that in the way that we, for example, can present to the student some activities related with that experience, or perhaps activities, or give to the student some tools that later on he could use in the everyday life. And in that situation, in those situations, in general, the student will realize how useful the language can be. Next point, we have motivation. Well, motivation is a key element in the teaching learning process. Okay? So we need our students to be motivated in order to achieve the goals that we have for this course. Okay? As you may notice, adult students in general are highly motivated, at least at the beginning. But the challenge here is to maintain that motivation along this process, along this trip, or this journey, which is learning the new language. Okay? This motivation perhaps may appear because of the need of learning the language, because of, I don't know, a possible job opportunity, or for academic purposes, or for travel, and so on. Next, we have self-concept. frequently the adult student has a negative self-image. They tend to believe that they are no longer able to learn. Okay? They see this new language, this foreign language, as a huge challenge that they might not be able to overcome. So it is our responsibility to show them that they are capable, that they can do it. We have to prove them wrong. We have to break that image, that false image that they have of themselves. Okay?
Yes.
Next item, immediate goals. Well, in general, when adult students come for you for lessons, private lessons, or in an institute, for example, they are not looking for a long-term course. They don't want to be studied for years and years. They need something short. They want something short because they need to learn English today, perhaps for a job, to get a job tomorrow. So you will see that necessity in them. Okay, what else? Then we have voluntary participation. Well, this is also related with motivation. The student comes to class because he wants to. He wants to be in the classroom. He is willing to learn. He has the need to learn, as I said before, for many reasons. So he came to us by his own will, okay? And the last point, mutual respect. Well, in general, adult students tend to be more respectful with us as teachers, and for the teacher figure as well. Okay. Hasta acá. ¿Alguna consulta? ¿Algún comentario que me quieran hacer? ¿Vamos bien?
Excelente, very clear.
A ver, un segundito, chicas, que me escriben por WhatsApp. Me dicen que hay alguien que... Ah, había gente acá esperando, perdón.
Fue a mi casa, pero son como 5 casas ahí.
¿Qué te pregunto por sale 250?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm sorry for the delay. I wasn't paying attention to the to the request. I'm sorry. Me copé con el tema y no vi las solicitudes. Perdón. Recién empezamos igual. Estamos ahí. Bien. Who can share some experience with us about working with adult students? Anybody that have noticed some of these points on their students? Okay, bueno, let's move on. Now we're going to talk about the difficulties. What do you think? Conversen conmigo. What do you think the problems are here in this process of learning, of teaching? What are the challenges that these students may find here? What do you think?
I think that most of them want to speak very as soon as they start the course,
Mhm.
and that can be a bit difficult at the beginning, but then with patience and motivation, they can do it.
Very good. Yes. Yes. What else?
I think that they might have, as you said, background and not only life experience, but their way of learning. So they might want to learn in that way. For example, they want to, okay, this is I don't know, an apple, and I know what is an apple. It is said like that. Okay, move on. Um, I don't know, maybe it is like difficult for the teacher to modify or adapt the activities to the way the adult learns.
Very good. It is difficult for us to break that structure. Very good. Thank you. Yes. When working with these adult students, we will notice, we will find that they have many difficulties. Many elements appear here, and we will see. First, we have vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, spelling, and punctuation. These 4 points, what do you think they refer to? Or why do you think they appear? As a consequence of what?
I think
See?
yes, I'm trying to well, I don't know if you can see me. So I think what happens to me was that adults tend to filter everything through Spanish. So they would use
Yes.
they would speak with a Spanish accent, or they would pronounce certain all the letters as if it was if it were Spanish, and
Yes.
they would filter everything through Spanish. So that was a problem for me.
Yes, very good, Flora. This is what happens, okay, when the student, in this case, the student is Spanish speaker and he's learning English. So these problems arise because of the difference between those two languages. And as Florencia said, the student tend to use the system that he knows in Spanish to speak the new language, the L2, and that is not possible. Also, students tend to make sentences by using the Spanish structure, and many times that is wrong. So that is the problem. Of course, vocabulary related with new words, new terms, the false friends that appear that are very confusing, right? That they think it means the same as in Spanish, but later on they realize that it had a completely different meaning. The grammar, the different structures that we find. And they have to learn to work with these new structures. They have to leave aside the structures in Spanish that they have used through their lives. Pronunciation, of course, they are going to find new sounds. So it's going to be difficult at first because they are learning a new system. And spelling and punctuation also, which comes as another consequence of the new language that they are dealing with. Next, we have very little time, several responsibilities. Vayan tomando notas, chicas. Igual yo después les mando las diapositivas. Ustedes me piden por mail, yo se las mando, pero también me gustaría que tomen nota de lo que vamos conversando. We have very little time, several responsibilities. Well, this happens often with adult students. They have many worries. They have to take care of their family, they work, they study at university, and so on. They have many responsibilities and perhaps very little time to spend studying the language. I prefer not to give them homework because I know they are not going to be able to do it because of the lack of time. However, what I always do, I ask them to review at home, to take a look at home, take a look at your notes, read what we saw in class today. Because you're going to forget for the next week, by next week, you will forget. You will forget it. Next, we have the adult learning process. As you know, children and adults learn differently. A ver quién me habla por chat. Could you put the first image back, Romy? Sí, no hay problema. Esta de student's profile. A ver. Bien. Student's profile, lo que vimos primero. Y pasamos ahora, seguimos con las difficulties. ¿Listo, Romy? ¿Copiaste?
Listo, gracias.
Okay, you're welcome. Volvamos. So, the learning process in children is very different from the learning process in adults. Adults are still able to learn a new language. However, they do it at a different rate. They tend to learn slower than children. Because as you know, well, we know that when the child grows up, he starts losing the plasticity of his brain. But this doesn't mean that the adult is unable to acquire a new language. This only means that, well, he learns that differently. So we as teachers need to use the different teaching strategies. We cannot use the same methods when working with children. It's like we have a different target, okay? So we need to approach that target differently. Okay, let's move on. Here I put together a guideline for you to use in the classroom. This would be like a piece of advice for you to use. Okay? Let's check this out. So, point number 1, we have collaboration, which is related with the last point, working in groups. This could be interesting for you to use it in the classroom, to present to the student different activities and tasks for the student to work in pairs, to work in groups, okay? And in this way, the student will share, will interact with each other, the students will interact with each other, and there will be an exchange of information and experiences which would be very profitable. Then we have point 2, alternatives and changes. This means that try not to do all of your lessons the same, in the same order, with the same structure. You have to change, use different tools, present the activities in a different order. Don't always use the book. Well, today we're not going to work with the book. Today we're going to start the lesson with the video, and then we will discuss. How about that? So when you show the student different approaches and different points of view and different alternatives, your class, your course will become more interesting. And of course, that will motivate your student to keep on learning, to keep on coming. Otherwise, your class will be boring. And you know, when something is boring, we tend to leave it. Okay, next, motivation. As I mentioned it before, motivation is a key element here. So our responsibility is trying to maintain that motivation constant along the course. Of course, some students will drop out. That is inevitable. But that won't be our fault. We as teachers tried to do our best. Next, get to know your students individually. Well, I know when we're working with big groups, that can be difficult. However, try to get to know at least one part of your student. For example, the field in which he works, his profession, what does he like, what doesn't he like. With different activities, you can get that information. And once you have that, you can bring to your classroom, for example, videos related with his or with their profession, text related, articles related with what they do, with what they like. And that is a very useful way to keep your students engaged. Next point, communicate slowly, clearly, and directly. Well, when we are dealing with a beginner level especially, our sentences must be simple and short. Our activities or our requests at the beginning must be simple. In some cases, only at the beginning, you can use some Spanish, but later on, you will speak to your students only in English, okay? Next point is the book. Well, this is related with the material that we use in class. As I said before, try not to use only the book. Try to bring alternatives to your class. Go to YouTube and look for some videos related with the unit of the book. Go to Google and download some articles related that you can add later to your class. For example, unit 1, we're going to work with the family. Okay, so we read in the book, we have an activity. Let's go to YouTube. Check some videos of boys and girls presenting their own family. Okay. Next, be animated. The teacher has to bring to the classroom a good energy. I know sometimes it's difficult. I know we are not always on our best side. However, our energy is, or our vibe is what is going to motivate my group of students. Okay. Next point, review constantly. Well, this happens especially with adults who don't have the time to spend reading at home or reviewing what we saw in class. So we have to do the review in the classroom, okay? Perhaps with some activities relating different topics that we saw in previous lessons, okay? As a way to remember or to refresh, to review what we have seen previously. And the last point, as I said before, working in groups. Well, you will see once the course starts, you will see which students work better individually, which students prefer working in groups, which kind of activities are more popular among your students. You will see that once you start working. There are some students that are going to ask you to work more with videos, for example. You will have more students that will ask you to do more speaking activities and so on. Alcira, me levantaste la manito. ¿Necesitas algo?
Sí, gracias, Luciano. Sorry, but I couldn't listen. Se cortó la transmisión. What do you mean by being animated? Sorry.
Ah, bien, sí, ve que te saliste, volviste a entrar. When I say be animated, it means that you as teacher have to bring a good energy to your class, good vibes. This will motivate your students in their learning process. O sea,
great, thank you. It's like you enjoy what you are doing. You are having fun with them, enjoying what you are doing.
Exactly. When you enjoy what you do, when they feel your enthusiasm.
Thank you. Great. I agree. Totally agree. Thank you.
You? Okay, let's move on. Now we have the results. Okay, so this would be our goals. How we want our students to feel in our classroom. Let's see. The student experiences something new. Of course, don't forget your student is learning a new language, a new culture, which for that person, it is like a new world. Thanks to us. We are the educator. We are the bridge here. Point 2, the student improves his self-esteem. Of course, once the student realizes that he is able to learn a new language and that he is able to communicate in a new language, in a new system, he sees that he's capable of doing what he wants. His confidence appears. He feels more confident now. He is happy with himself. The next point, he overcomes his fears. Of course, you know that at the beginning, the fear is present, like a big monster or a ghost. But once this student starts feeling confident, this fear will go away. It is our task to show that student that he is able, that he is smart, intelligent enough to learn a new language, to overcome this challenge. Okay? Studying as an adult increases the mental capacities, and this is also related with the next item, mental health. As you know, learning a new language, it is a very beneficial activity for the brain. It avoids Alzheimer, and many other things. And the last point, students relate to each other. When working with groups, okay, our classroom is the perfect place for the student to socialize, not only to learn, but also to socialize, to relate with other people, to exchange, to share. So it is very valuable, it is very useful. Our classroom will be the place where the student feels good, where the student feels able, where the student can share with other people that have the same interests. Okay. Do you have any comments? Do you have any questions about this topic?
No, everything okay. It is also very nice just to know how to motivate them. I think that it's very important just to be animated and try to make them engaged in this activity. And it's also very important trying to make them to feel confident and to be happy being with a group with the same interest. Now, what happens when you know or you realize as a teacher that another has more difficulties than the rest of the group? How can you help him or her without being, I don't know, violent? Because he
Or
needs
invasive.
more help than the rest.
Yes, yes. Well, sometimes that can happen when you have perhaps one student who is struggling, that would be the word, struggling, who is struggling with the language. Well, in that case, I tend to focus a little bit more on that student, not trying not to be obvious, of course, because for the group, my group of students, I try to be the same for all of them, but I would try to focus a little bit more on that student. Now, since we are having e-learning classes, I also, for example, I also have a WhatsApp group in which they can ask questions and they can, where they can clarify the doubts, which is also a very useful way to tell your students, I am here for you, I am available for you if you have any doubts.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, any other question, comment, something that you would like to share with me, with us, with the rest? Bueno, muy bien chicos, con esto terminamos el workshop de hoy. Lamentablemente vamos a tener que cortar acá. Les agradezco mucho que hayan venido, me encantó compartir con ustedes. Me gustaría que más adelante podamos hacer una segunda parte, tal vez no con tanta teoría, sino con un poquito más de intercambio, de conversación, estaría bueno. ¿Sí? Yo sé que hay muchos colegas, muchos teachers que tienen mucho para compartir, para aportar, y eso está bueno. ¿Sí? Y bueno, cualquier cosa que necesiten, tienen mi mail, tienen mi celular. Si quieren que les pase las diapositivas, me lo piden por mail, así les mando todas juntas, ¿sí? No tengo ningún problema en compartirles. Y bueno, seguimos en contacto. Espero que les haya gustado.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Luciano. Thanks a lot.
Muchas gracias, chicos.
Muchas gracias.
Un
Thank
gusto,
you.
¿eh? Estamos en contacto.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Bye.
Saludos.
Gracias, Luciano. Bye bye.